Happy birthday, Brigade. What's up? It's a Wednesday for the Bostonian versus the Book. My name is Matt Peralt. We are live on YouTube and on X at Boston versus the Book. Sports Grid replay, late night, 10 p.m. Pacific, and replayed audio-wise wherever you guys get your audio podcast. This being the 4-year anniversary show for BvB, the Bostonian versus the Book. We will take a walk down memory lane today. So here is the plan for what we're going to do today. And the chat has been unbelievable. I mean, you guys are already rolling here with some things that have been really neat. And I'm going to put up a bunch of stuff here because this is pretty neat. Normally, we don't have you guys in here as active and as, vocal in the pre-show. But this has been neat to see a bunch of people come on over saying, hey, we have not been watching for a bit, or we were watchers of the show and now we're doing other things, or my job changed, or whatever it might be. I mean, it's very cool. So we'll do that here in just 1 second, but we're going to do the opening line today on, in my opinion, the 5 biggest sporting things that happened, sporting events, sporting moments that have happened since the show went live on December the 13th, 2021. Now you might go, well, Matt, today's the 17th. Here's why I decided to do it today. Monday and Tuesday are such big NFL football days and such a big deal, with Sunday being recapped on Monday and then Monday night being recapped on Tuesday, that I wanted to give ourselves some time here. And really, last night we had the NBA Cup here in Vegas, and we didn't have there's not a ton of stuff going on right now today, Wednesday. So it's hump day. It's a good time to take a breath, to take a look back. So opening line, we're going to do that. The 5 most significant things, special things in sports that happened during the last 4 years. Then in bonus time, I'm going to play you the inaugural show, only 4 minutes of it, 4-year anniversary. I'm going to play you a 4-minute excerpt of the first ever show. Here's the thing. The video does not exist. You have to go back to January of 23. That is when this YouTube channel began, January of 23. And we are like 10 subscribers away from 3,000. That's been our goal, to get to 3,000 by the end of the year. We have 2,099. like we have 2,990. Like, we are right there. So if you've not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do so. Get us to 3,000 before the end of the year. But we don't have any video record, unless we have saved it for a different reason. And Eric has some stuff on a hard drive, and there are some older shows. I don't have anything video-wise from the first episodes of BvB, but I have all the audio. I have all of the audio. So I'm going to play a 4-minute clip audio. And so it doesn't look good on Sports Grid. So that's why we're going to play it during bonus time. So if you are a fan, you got to go do something, come back to the YouTube channel and watch bonus time, because I'm going to play you a 4-minute clip of Dave and I talking for the inaugural episode of BvB. It's funny to go back and listen to it. It's heartwarming and heartbreaking at the same time. And so I've been listening to these. I've gone back and forth and listened to a bunch of shows for the first week of December of 21, and just kind of remembering what that week was like. And, I was going to tell a bunch of stories today, and I told you guys I was going to tell a bunch of stories. And, this is why we have significant others, that I was sort of not talked out of it, but I was talked into keeping this positive and keeping this in a celebratory manner, rather than, do what my natural inclination is to do. Naturally, I came out of the womb like with a switchblade. Like I came out of the womb wanting to fight. Like, it's my natural inclination. Like, I don't start fights, I end fights, right? And there are fights that have been ongoing from this show, that and stories I haven't told about what happened at the end of props, and what happened when, how did the proxy service really become a reality? And maybe on someday, I'll tell these stories, and maybe someday I'll share. But for today, I think I'm gonna listen to other people who have, namely Amanda, who is cooler, calmer, and more has a better grasp of this stuff. That's what Dave was for the two of us. Like, I will tell one quick story before we do the opening line, because it doesn't out anybody, but it explains a bit about the relationship between him and I, and what it was like, and what I will miss forever about him and I is that Dave was often people would ask like, why is Dave friends with Matt? Like, what is this relationship? Why does this exist? Because they're so very different, right? Dave is the mayor. Dave is liked by everybody. Dave doesn't have any enemies, blah, blah, blah. But Dave and I agreed on so many things. And we were okay. Our dynamic worked because I am perfectly comfortable being the bad guy. I am perfectly comfortable taking bullets and having people all think that it was me. So often in our relationship and so often in our interactions with people, either in business or personal, so often they would literally MF me and be like, that guy, that guy, that guy. And Dave and I would laugh afterwards because Dave would agree with 100% of what I said or what I did. We just determined that it was easier to let people believe that Dave was on their side or that Dave was their best friend because he made everybody feel that way. And so that's how he operated. And we as a group, business, as a co-host, as a friendship, that's how we operated. It worked because it was perfectly orchestrated. We were playing chess with people that had no idea what we were doing. They all thought that they were in the know, and they had no clue that we had already talked it out and orchestrated how we were going to approach what they were doing. And so I was the guy that took the bullet, and I'm perfectly comfortable doing that and being in that role. And so it was always funny. Like, people just don't understand, like, what did you and Dave talk about until 2:00 in the morning? What did you guys, what were your conversations about? So often it was about just giggling about the fact that these people thought, whoever they were, that they thought they were getting a one up on us. Like, that they thought that it was somehow like, they would go to Dave and just say all these things about me to Dave, like Matt this and Matt that and da 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 da. And he would always just laugh. And he's like, these people just don't understand that I turn around and I tell you, I tell you what they're saying, so you know what they're saying. And I have a list of people that used to say things to Dave all the time, thinking that it was not going to get back to me. And it got back to me every single time. I know what these people have said. And Dave used to laugh, going like, I can't understand. Like, they think that they know what they're talking about, and they don't. And so that was our superpower as a friendship, as a business partner. Are we still live? That was a catastrophic. We haven't had a catastrophic freeze. That was a full-blown collapse. that was a complete shutdown. Everything shut down. Apologies. I think we're back, right? We never went off. We never stopped streaming. Sorry. That was not my bad. Okay. My bad on that. Somebody went crazy. We're back. Okay. Sorry. That wasn't good. I didn't realize that was not just a freeze. That was an absolute catastrophic drop. Anyways, like I was saying, that was the benefit that Dave had with me, is that Dave was able to play a game of looking ahead and seeing how things were going to play out. And so now Amanda has that role for me now, and through conversations with her last night, and seeing her side and saying, hey, let's keep everything positive for today. Let's do a show that's going to remember the awesome 4-year start and where the show is going to go versus, picking up a hatchet and going and swinging at people, because that was my natural, there are two people in particular that I have my sights on because of what they have said and done, what they were allowed to do without any real blowback. And maybe one day, but for today, we're going to keep it positive. Not today. Today is going to be about happiness, reflection, going back over 4 years. This stuff is cool. And I'm seeing a bunch of, did we lose all those? No, we lost all wow. That might have actually, you know what? That might not have been a me crash. That might have been a StreamYard crash because I lost all the comments. Shoot. I was going to put up a bunch of those comments. I apologize. Okay. There were a bunch of comments. That should have been, that were in the comment section that I don't know how, I don't have access to anymore. Sorry. Okay. I was going to put that up. They were cool. There were comments about people that had not watched the show in a long time. Guys like the dude. I appreciate you, man. Thank you. That's really cool. Nice of you to jump on in and be a part of that. Guys who had watched the show previously, who had not been there before, who had not watched the show in a while. So that's very cool. Yeah. 4 years. Longer than your relationship. Longer than mine too. 4 years is a long time. It is a long time. December the 13th, 2021. Like, where were you guys? Okay. Let's talk about the 5 most significant things that happened over the last 4 years in the sports world. What were they to me? All right. December 13th, 2021. Top 5 things in sports that happened since we started BvB. Let's go at number 5. And I know this might be a weird one, but I do think this is a huge deal. Steph Curry became the all-time 3-point leading bucket getter in NBA history. He passed Ray Allen for that mark. Now, why is that so significant? Well, it is to me. One, he did it at MSG, which is obviously one of the most historic basketball courts ever. But this was, the NBA had already started to change. The NBA had already started to become a league in which was heavily reliant upon 3-point shooting. But when Curry passed Ray Allen and became the all-time 3-point bucket getter, coaches started to really position their entire offenses around the 3-point shot. And we have seen in the wake of Curry and the Warriors, we have seen 3-and-D defensive 3-and-D wings be the number one most coveted thing in the NBA. If you can play defense and you can rebound and you can shoot threes, you will work in the NBA right now for the next 10 years. And there's been so many players that I've covered in college and so many players that I've watched turn themselves into this. The story of Anthony Tolliver is a guy, if you don't know who he is, a Creighton basketball player who almost didn't play D1 basketball. He turned himself into a 15-year career for a 3-and-D guy who could play defense, rebound, and shoot the three. Well, Curry showed that you can build full offenses around 3-and-D guys, around your guards, and not your bigs. Because for the longest time, the NBA was a big man league, right? Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant. You had your point guard who could dribble, drive, and get to the rim, and you have Shaq getting the rebound or Shaq posting up, right? So then the Warriors came along with this guard who hit threes from everywhere, and now you had teams that started to build full rosters. Like we saw full commitment to the 3-point shot, and we have just continued it over the last 4 years. We have just seen more and more offenses in the NBA be focused. The Celtics shot more threes than anybody else in their championship season. They just jacked 3 after 3 after 3, and they win the championship. And they have, a young head coach in Joe Mazzulla who preaches defense, but also preaches jacking as many threes as possible. And he's brought in guys like Peyton Pritchard, where 10 years ago, I'm not sure Peyton Pritchard winds up in the NBA long term. But now Peyton Pritchard wins the Sixth Man of the Year award last year because he shoots threes at a 50, 60% clip and plays defense well enough to be on the court. Curry passing Ray Allen cemented the idea that the three-point shot is the most important shot in basketball. And that wasn't the case 10 years ago. It is the case today. Number 4, the Rams won their first Super Bowl in a building that was their home. The Rams played at SoFi in LA against the Bengals. They beat the Bengals. They win their first championship in forever, and the Rams become the first team ever to win a championship in the NFL in their home stadium. It had never happened before, but for BvB, our first ever appearance in the Super Bowl. We were live for Radio Row. The show began in December, and the following February, we were live on Radio Row for the first time. It was also one of the first times we ever saw a sports book like FanDuel have large broadcasting properties, stages set up. And it was wild. I mean, it was really one of the crazier things to take a step back and look at what was going on in America. We went to Los Angeles. It was not a legal state. You still can't sports gamble in LA, but you had Radio Row and you had sports books all over the place. And we had our first ever appearance. We then went LA, Arizona, and Las Vegas. We did not go to the Super Bowl BvB up to San Francisco coming up, and it'll be four times in 5 years for us to be at the Super Bowl. But you know, Radio Row, I'll never forget McAfee. Pat was a big deal, but Pat was still with FanDuel, and Pat was still trying to really build the empire. And Pat McAfee did an interview with literally anyone that asked him. After we did that interview, when Dave and I talked to Pat, part of the things I talked to him was about that, because he was doing interviews with the local college kids who were on Radio Row. Anybody that asked Pat to talk, Pat talked. One college kid asked Pat to snap him. If he could snap the ball to him. He was a long snapper in high school, and he asked Pat, "Hey, can you grade how I am as a long snapper to snap the ball back as a punter?" And Pat said, "Sure." And so in the middle of Radio Row, we're watching this college kid bend over a football and fire it to Pat McAfee. Like, it was unbelievable to watch. And it was great, I think, for me as being a guy who's pretty, I'm significantly older than Pat. I'm 48. So Pat's in his mid-30s. And to watch how everyone was falling over themselves to interview and talk to Pat McAfee. And Dave's relationship predated most of this stuff. I mean, Pat and Dave knew each other for a long time. And Pat and Dave and Gump. And, when we started planning out BvB, I don't think we had the intention of looking up to the Pat McAfee show, but I think it was always in the back of our minds. And we would see Pat every year at the Super Bowl, and we'd watch him grow and grow and grow and get bigger and bigger and bigger, to the point where I don't think in San Francisco, I don't think Pat will be on Radio Row. I think Pat will have his own set. He's that level. Now, he doesn't need to go where everybody else is. Pat just needs to go and be Pat. Pat just needs to go and do his own thing. People will go to McAfee, not vice versa. McAfee's not going to where everybody is. Everyone's going to go to Pat McAfee. So that was really fun to be there, to see that experience, to be in Los Angeles for the first time. Dave and I bouncing around doing Dave, I think he did 100 interviews that week. That week, we were there Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I think we missed Monday. Do that the next year in Arizona, because I think Monday and Tuesday were dead days. It was not worth being there for Monday and Tuesday. It really picked up Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So I think we went there for Arizona, but that was number 3. Number 4. Number 3, we've only seen one, but it did happen. During the BvB era, we did see a Celtics championship. Number 18 for the Boston Celtics. There will be more, and you guys will have to endure and deal with the insufferable nature of Boston fans as to how things go when the Patriots are there, or the Bruins, or the Celtics. And here with this championship here for the Celtics to come in. Number 3, Celtics championship. I was worried, by the way, you guys are saying about phrases. I was worried about phrases today because there was some funkiness going on with StreamYard in the morning, this morning. So this is not a surprise that this is actually not a me issue. I know I often say that like it's not my fault. It's actually not my fault because I was watching the StreamYard before we got rolling. So this is an internet issue but not a me internet issue. This is a StreamYard being overloaded issue. Why? I don't really know why StreamYard is overloaded today, but it's definitely overloaded. It's definitely overloaded at the moment for whatever reason. So I do apologize for having some technical difficulties. Thank you for staying with us. Number 2, Ohtani. He goes to the Dodgers for $700 million. Immediately wins back-to-back titles. Ohtani watch becomes a permanent part of BvB, and yet the gambling scandal is still going to be a major deal and a major point to talk about when it comes to Ohtani. And he has crossed over all angles of this show, whether it be dominant performances, whether it be championships, whether it be major free agent signings, or whether it be a gigantic gambling scandal. Shohei Ohtani has been a monster part of this show. And for 4 years, we have spent time marveling, we've spent time talking, and we spent time analyzing all sorts of the good and the bad of Shohei Ohtani. And there's a lot of good, and there's a lot of bad when it comes to Ohtani. The off-the-field stuff with his interpreter, who now sits in a federal penitentiary, that's something that will always follow him. At least on this show, it will follow Shohei Ohtani, as will the back-to-back MVP dominant seasons with the Dodgers, leading them to a World Series championship without being 100% healthy as a pitcher. And next year, as the Dodgers go for a three-peat, they're going to get the full Shohei Ohtani experience, which I think for anybody in baseball is really difficult and dangerous to think about, right? Because the Dodgers just keep on adding, just got Edwin Diaz from the Mets. They keep on adding, they keep on getting better, they keep on spending money, and they keep on winning. And they have done so without Shohei Ohtani being the Angels version of Shohei Ohtani. That is significant. Like, that is absolutely, completely significant on this. So, number one sports moments here for us in the opening line. This is not BvB moments, but it's sports moments. It has to be Las Vegas hosting the Super Bowl. After all the talk about this town being hell on earth, how Vegas was a landscape of degenerates, and if sports gambling became legalized, we would see the literal end of the NFL. That was said by previous commissioners, that if sports gambling was legalized in America, the NFL would never be able to exist. Well, it existed. It happened. We went and did the show live. It was an awesome experience, and nothing changed. The world didn't fall apart. We didn't have some major, gigantic scandal involving the game. Nobody fixed anything in the Super Bowl. It is what it is. It went down the way it went down. But Vegas hosted a Super Bowl, and I think Vegas did an absolutely bang-up job hosting the Super Bowl. I liked LA. Arizona was different. I wasn't a gigantic fan of the setup in Arizona. I thought it was a little bit too spread out. I thought Vegas did it right. I thought Vegas was able to do some really cool things and different things because of the proximity to the to Allegiant Stadium, because of the fact that you had all the hotels so close. It was all walking distance. The weather cooperated. It wasn't that bad. It was raining. If I remember, it was raining for a couple of the days, but nothing crazy. It was just done really well. And you would expect that to happen. It's Vegas, right? We know how to do big events. But I remember Dave and I spent so much time talking about the buildup for 2 years, basically talking about what it was going to be like. We went to LA and we went to Arizona because we wanted to have the experience of those 2 Super Bowls, because we knew Vegas was going to have a Super Bowl. And we thought, oh my gosh, Vegas is going to have a Super Bowl. This is incredible that Vegas, the place that everyone was said that could not have a World Series, or sorry, a Super Bowl or a major sporting event, whether it be the Stanley Cup or whether it be the World Series or whether it be NBA championship, right? That like we were good enough to have things like last night, the NBA Cup type stuff, right? We'll have one-off little, these little events. You'll have that, like the F1 race, right? You'll have stuff like that, but you're not getting the granddaddy. You're not getting the biggest sporting event in American sports history. We're not giving you something that valuable. And when they gave the Super Bowl to Vegas, so many people were like, this is a bad idea. And it was incredible. It went off without a hitch. It was the biggest moment in this for us, for BvB. It was the biggest sporting event. It was the biggest sports moment in the 4-year history of this show that Vegas hosted a Super Bowl. We're getting one again. I think it's 2032, right? That's coming back, 2031. Somewhere in that range. Vegas is getting another one. And I have long said there should be a rotation of about 6 cities, and that's it. They're not going to do that. They have dreams of sending the damn game to Europe. So they're not going to do that. But I still think we should be talking about SoFi, Arizona, Houston, Vegas, Florida, and Miami, maybe Dallas. That's about it. I mean, you should be sick. New Orleans, 6, 7 cities. That's it. And you just go and bounce around because they have proven they can do it. People like going to those cities. The cities like to have the events. That's also important, right? Sometimes cities get annoyed when you bring in all these new people. They don't like it. So sometimes it's frustrating. It's different because they're not accustomed to having people, thousands and thousands of people coming into town. So these are big events and big moments, and Vegas should have a ton of these. I think there should be an opportunity to have. I don't like cold weather. Okay. I don't mind outdoors, but it must be an outdoor warm stadium. And I don't really agree with San Francisco. I don't agree with San Francisco. I don't agree with Chicago. I don't agree with Detroit. I don't agree with New York. I don't agree with any of these cold cities, dome or not. I don't believe in cold cities getting Super Bowls. I don't care if you build a stadium or not, Minnesota. I don't care, what you do, Buffalo. You're not getting a Super Bowl. Like you're just not. So that to me, those are the 5 biggest events. You guys can put your own thoughts as to the last 4 years from a sporting perspective. But I think Steph Curry breaking Ray Allen's mark was gigantic. It happened right before the show started, by the way. On the 13th, the show started on the 13th. On the 14th, he broke the record. So actually, it started just afterwards. So on the second day, Steph Curry broke the record. So we started the show Monday the 13th. On Tuesday the 14th, 2021, Steph Curry broke the record. Then the Rams win the first ever home game Super Bowl against the Bengals. BvB goes live from Radio Row for the first time. Celtics win first Boston championship in the BvB era. 2, Ohtani going to the Dodgers for $700 million, winning back-to-back titles immediately. And number 1, Vegas, hosting the Super Bowl, something that was never going to be allowed. It was never going to have to be there on these things. Now, I know you guys are putting up your own favorite BvB moments, and we can go through all that, but we did that when Dave passed in September. I went back and watched the video, and we've done this already. So I wanted to do that. We'll play the audio from the first ever show in bonus time. And that I thought was an appropriate way, rather than like replaying and redoing the show we did back in September. That show is available. If you guys want to go check it out, you can go look at the Dave tribute show. That video is on our YouTube channel. You can just scroll down and watch it. So if you want to relive that show, go right ahead. I'm totally down with that. And I appreciate you guys doing that. But because we did that show already, I didn't want to do that show again today. I wanted to do this type of show and give you guys, a legitimate sports show on this, a way of talking about sports, a way of watching it, remembering Dave. We're going to obviously hearing his voice is wild. Like, just brace yourself. In a half an hour, I'm going to play this, but it's like, whoa, seeing him, those pictures are tough enough. But the first ever episode of BvB audio wise is quite like, whoa. So we'll do that coming up here in a couple minutes. So stay tuned for that. But let's talk about what happened last night, because there's a lot to get into. All right, what happened last night? The Knicks do win the NBA Cup. And because so many people like me went to social media to tease the Knicks about they're going to hang a banner, aren't they? They're going to hang an NBA Cup banner because the Knicks have won nothing in my life. I'm 48. They've won nothing. So the Knicks finally won something. They finally win something. And now everyone's like, they're going to hang a banner. The Knicks are going to hang an NBA Cup banner. And so to shut down what everyone has been saying, like me, the Knicks had to come on out and make the proclamation that they are not going to do it. That they are not going to hang a championship banner, because 1972-73, that was the last time the Knicks won the championship. And they said there's going to be a, quote, appropriate celebration before the next home game on Friday. But the team is focused on the, quote, bigger picture. They'll be the first Cup champion to not hang a banner, because it went so well when the Lakers and the Bucks hung an NBA Cup banner, right? This is actually the smartest move the Knicks have made in forever. They have decided against hanging an NBA Cup banner, but it is hysterical that they have to announce it. It is hysterical that they have to go, and the New York Post has learned that the New York Knicks are not going to hang an NBA, like it's some bragging right thing that they're not hanging this at, like, we got bigger things. We have bigger goals than to win the NBA Cup. I love the Knicks. They're such a clown show. Like, no matter what they do, it's so easy to make fun of the New York Knicks. It's so easy to make fun of their fans, because they are the most sensitive, rabbit ear fan base in the NBA. They think they're so much better than they are. They've won, again, nothing in my life. I saw 3 rings in the 80s. I saw a ring in the 90s. I saw a ring in the 2000s and a ring in the 2020s. So, like, I've seen 5 in my life. And I've seen Larry Bird. I've seen Jason Tatum. I've seen the Celtics dominate. I've seen the Lakers be very good. I've seen the Warriors be dominant. I've seen now OKC and what they are doing. We've seen some incredible basketball teams and talent come through in my 48 years of life. And it's never been the Knicks. It's never been the Knicks. I don't think it will be the Knicks. And I think the fact that the Knicks, the previous 2 teams that have won the NBA Cup, the Bucks and the Lakers, both were knocked out in the first round of the playoffs. Just FYI. Just to tell you, Knick fan, about, well, it is a big deal. We won something. Like, I've been watching these videos from Knick fans going like, why is everyone like, peeing on our parade? Like, we haven't won anything. Like, why can't we celebrate? The NBA Cup is cool. I'm not going to debate. The NBA Cup is a cool idea. I like the NBA Cup. I do. I like the fact these guys are playing for money. These guys, this is their motivation, right? $500,000 for a lot of those guys at the end of the bench for the Knicks is a lot of money. They played really well in the fourth quarter. They were down by 10 points to the Spurs. They went on a 13-1 run in the fourth quarter, and they won that game. Knicks were the better team, period. They played really well last night. Wemby, we found out, lost a grandparent like hours before that game, and he still played. So he didn't play great, but he was playing with a heavy heart because his grandparent passed away. So that was a distraction. The calf injury, he looked winded. He looked tired as he was out there, but he wanted to be out there. It was a championship game. But the Knicks did a good job on him. The Knicks hit a bunch of threes, and the Knicks won the game. Knicks were the better team last night. But it's the NBA Cup. Like, it's cool. It's unique. It's a manufactured in-season tournament. And like, I've seen people talk about Europe and be like, American sports fans will never understand how great it is when, you know, from a European perspective, how cool these tournaments are. The NBA is trying to copy all these things. Yeah, that's true. I did forget about the Bulls. Good point, Vinny. Thank you. It was the 90s, but good point. The Bulls dynasty was the best. That's true. So yeah, so seeing that, right? Unbelievable. We've seen great offenses, great defenses, great teams, great players. Michael Jordan, the GOAT, right? Greatest player ever. It's never about the Knicks. It's just never about the Knicks. I don't care how many, you know, Starks that are out there. It's never about the Knicks. And I just think it's hysterically funny that the Knicks had to come out and make that announcement, or at least leak it to the media, being like, we're not going to care about the cup. Don't worry. Because if they hung an NBA Cup, you know what we're going to do. We're going to die laughing. It's like the Colts hanging an AFC Championship appearance banner, which they did. So like, that's hysterically funny. It's like, what are you hanging rings for? And like, I had a Knick fan tell me today, be like, well, wait a minute. We see banners being hung, and he sent me a picture of the Garden in Boston with the Stanley Cup banners and the NBA championship banners for the Celtics, saying, you guys hang banners. Like, you think the NBA Cup is the same as an NBA championship? I'm sorry. That is a ridiculous comment. To go through the Eastern Conference and then beat the Western Conference best team in a best of 7 is not what the NBA Cup is all about. I'm sorry. Folks still don't know what it is. Okay. You ask the average sports fan, how does the NBA Cup get determined? They won't be able to tell you. They don't understand it. Fans don't understand it. Okay. So the idea that you've won something of significance, it is to the players. They've won a good deal of money. It matters to the players. It does not matter to the public yet. It does not matter to even the NBA players, really. Like, nobody who is of, like, the OKC Thunder didn't go home from Vegas angry. They weren't like, oh my God, how did we lose to the Spurs? This is so bad. Like, no. They were like, okay, whatever. Let's go to the pool later. Like, they don't care. Right. Good question, CBW. Who did the Bucks beat in the NBA Cup final last year? Good point. I don't know. I cannot answer that question. It's a great point. So I like the NBA Cup. Okay. I like the NBA Cup. Let's just establish this. But you should not be hanging banners for winning the NBA Cup. Okay. You should be awarding your players and congratulations, but there should not be any real remembrance going on. There should not be something that lives in the rafters forever. Rafters are for immortality, right? You are a player having their number retired into the rafters. Immortality. Nobody will ever wear that uniform, that number, ever again. A championship, a real championship, that goes to the rafters. You've won it all. You are the last team standing. That gets remembered for immortality. Okay. I don't even like that the Knicks are hanging. Like, if you go ahead and look at this, because I was looking at this today, I was kind of laughing. Look at this. They have banners for the Atlantic Division Championship. They've actually hung Atlantic Division. Do you have any idea how many banners would need to be up for the Celtics if they were hanging Atlantic Division Championship individual banners? like you can't do that. Like, what are we doing? Like, okay, sure. You just didn't OKC. Was it OKC-ish? Or did you just look that up? You looked that up? JC McCasey, good point. Adam Silver said yesterday that he wants to play the NBA Cup games at a college arena. Yes. Again, as I said yesterday, I think this is threatening Vegas. I think this is a saber rattle for the NBA. They want more publicity, they want more promotion, and they want more help selling tickets for the NBA Cup than what Vegas is giving them. Because as I said yesterday, people in Vegas don't care. I went to my physical therapy appointment last night that's at this sports medicine place in town. And my PT works on a lot of athletes here in town. And there were like 6 of us, and we were all having this conversation about, does Vegas care about the NBA and the NBA Cup? And the answer was what I said. People care about the NBA if there was an NBA team here. Like Vegas wants an NBA team, but Vegas does not care about the NBA Cup really. No one's going to pay $280 for a lower bowl ticket on a Tuesday night to go watch the Spurs and the Knicks. Like it's, people will take the tickets. You could have gotten, I saw the lowest price last night was $40. The get-in price last night was $40. That's not bad, right? $40 is not bad, but that's not what the ticket price was. The face value was not. It was a secondary ticket market where someone was taking a loss on that. So, you know, that's sort of where this town is. In that same interview in which Adam Silver talked about moving the NBA Cup to like Cameron Indoor Stadium or something like that, which would be kind of crazy to watch if they were to do that, or to go to Fog Allen down in Kansas, in Lawrence, Kansas, or to go, you know, to UCLA, to go to, you know, to Pauley Pavilion, like those types of, that's what he's talking about in terms of like historic barns for college basketball. He also, again, reiterated that Vegas and Seattle are looking like expansion teams coming in 2026, which is what we thought was going to happen and what should have already happened, to be completely frank. But I really wonder if LeBron James in his career is holding up the entire NBA expansion plan. Now, you might say I'm insane for saying that, but I actually don't think it's that crazy. The NBA, when they come to Vegas, they're going to want the face of the franchise. The Raiders, even though Mark Davis is still the owner, here in town, Tom Brady is becoming more and more the face of the Raider front office. People are starting to pay attention to what Brady is saying for the Raiders and the fact that Brady is spending more time here in town. He was at Mandalay Bay 2 days ago, opening up one of his luxury card shops, and it nearly shut down the strip. It was ridiculous. It was a full riot going on at Mandalay Bay. Brady is becoming the guy for the Raiders, and the NFL likes that. Clearly, because otherwise they would have shut it down. Being a broadcaster owner, they would have said, no, you can't do that. But they're letting him do that with restrictions, which they have since lifted some of those restrictions after the first year. They've now said, okay, Tom, it's all right. Well, I think the Raiders model is what the NBA is going to copy. They want LeBron James involved with that ownership group. And if LeBron's playing, it is very clear in the NBA rules, NFL rules too. You cannot be a player owner. Not allowed. So as LeBron plays this year, if this is it for LeBron, or if next year is it for LeBron, he can make the announcement and say, okay, 2026 will be my last season. I will not play basketball in 27, and thus the expansion season for the Las Vegas, whatever we call them, will be part owned by LeBron James. He will go from the court to becoming an owner, which is what he wants, which is what the league, I think, wants as well. They want to keep LeBron heavily involved, and they want LeBron to be involved with the future for decisions to be made about the NBA. So it does track as to why they haven't made the expansion announcement yet, and why they haven't made the move to tell Seattle and Vegas that they are getting teams, because whenever Adam Silver is talking about expansion, it's always Seattle and it's always Vegas. Those are always the two markets. We're not hearing about Nashville. We're not hearing about Louisville. We're not hearing about the markets that have been talked about for a long time about other possibilities for cities to have NBA franchises. So with that stated, I do think that LeBron's going to walk off the court and go right into an ownership position with the Vegas franchise. And Michael Jordan, everything else, we'll see, but it hasn't worked. Yeah, it's a good point. Will Michael Jordan do an NBA team or he's too busy with NASCAR. Well, Jordan already was involved with the Bobcats. Remember? He already was involved. Jordan already had his crack with the NBA. So it didn't really work. So it's going to be fun to see the Vegas Spearmint Rhinos, the Vegas Green Doors, the Vegas Blackjacks. I've always said that the Vegas Blackjacks work, but the Blackjacks were a minor league hockey team here in town, I guess. So that's why. That's why that was, because I thought the hockey team should have been the Blackjacks. That's what I thought it was going to happen. They thought about the Vegas Kings, but obviously you have the LA Kings, so you couldn't do that. The Vegas Queens didn't fly. Obviously, why? The Aces were the basketball team. They took that, so that's out the door. Like, you start coming through with like the natural gambling reference types of things, and you can't call them the Vegas Jokers. Like, that's not going to work either. So there's going to be a lot of conversations about what this team name should be. And the Golden Knights we're probably going to go that direction. Like, Bill Foley, the owner of the Vegas NHL franchise, is an Army nut, and he wanted to be named the Silver Knights, but Army knocked that down. He went Golden Knights. Army still tried to knock that down, but he was allowed to do it through other paying off people and paying off teams, and that college up in northern New York that he had to pay off to let them use the name. So, the Golden Knights, I think we'll go that way. Like, there's no connection to Vegas at all for the term Golden Knight, but we've all accepted it and been like, okay, they're the Vegas Golden Knights. I would expect the NBA is going to go the same direction. Like, I don't think there'll be any real correlation from a team, because look at the NBA. Like, the Utah Jazz is still the most hysterically funny name in all of sports. Like, it's the whitest state in the union with the most African-American nickname that there is. The Jazz is a Southern black, New Orleans term. Like, that is, and yet they're in Utah. So the LA Lakers are from Minnesota. When they put the Minnesota franchise there with the Minnesota, the Lakers, it made sense because it was the Lakes of Minnesota. Well, they became the LA Lakers, and there's not a lot of lake in LA. So there's all sorts of things that don't make any sense when it comes to that. So, like, we'll see what they wind up doing, but I'll be very curious to see how it all plays out. The Dolphins made an announcement this morning, and they are benching Tua. He will not play the rest of the year. Quinn Ewers, the rookie from Texas, will be the new starting quarterback. He will start against the Bengals, and most likely he will start for the next 3 games. Tua leading the NFL interceptions, and after the last loss on Monday night, his head coach, Mike McDaniels, was asked about it, and he kind of was non-committal about Tua, saying that everything was on the table when it came to the quarterback position, and there was a lot of noise around Quinn Ewers saying you have to find out what you have for Quinn Ewers and then see what to do next with the position, because you're a middle of the pack team at the moment. Like, you're not going to have a high draft pick. A quarterback probably will fall to you in the middle part of the first round, but we've seen it historically speaking, those quarterbacks aren't always a great selection. So it's either top of the draft or like a 4th or a 5th round guy that hits because he was undervalued and not evaluated properly. So what do the Dolphins do with Tua? Most likely his time in Miami is over, and there will be a new quarterback next year in Miami. The question is going to be, will there be a new head coach? I think Mike McDaniels has saved his job. I think if you look at the way that this team has played down the stretch, they had won 4 games in a row going into that game against the Steelers. And if they beat the Bengals, which is possible, they beat the Bengals this coming weekend. I mean, Miami's not making the postseason, but they've been in the hunt for the last month or so because of the head coach and the fact that the players are responding to him. So I want the Dolphins to keep him as a Patriot fan. Like, don't keep him right there. But the players, Devon Achane has had an unbelievable last 2 months running the football. The running attack has come around. The offensive lines look really good for Miami. So I think you can justify keeping the head coach and making a change and saying the quarterback was the problem. And that Tua, once he got his big contract, he got really happy. he got really complacent and he didn't care. And there's videos circulating around about Tua post-game talking to Steeler friends of his, and he's having a grand old time. The team had just been eliminated from playoff contention. Dolphin fans were really mad about the way that things went in the second half, and Tua acted like he didn't care. So, like, you know, I think there's a trade potentially coming for Tua. There could be an outright cutting. I don't believe Tua is on the roster next year. Kyler Murray and Tua swapping locations might not be a horrible idea. I don't know if Jonathan Gannon really likes Tua or thinks he can work with Tua, but that might be an option. But both Tua and Kyler Murray both have huge contracts, and they're both going to be problematic for both those teams because of those contracts and the long-term impact on the salary cap that will be made because of those players. But I don't believe that either one, Tua or Kyler Murray, will be on their current teams next season. A little bit of a surprise announcement yesterday, but not that much of a surprise if you paid attention to the career of Bud Crawford. Bud Crawford announced that he is done at the age of 38 and a record of 42-0. Bud Crawford is walking away from the sport of boxing. He walks away after the win over Canelo and a very brief conversation about a rematch in which he wanted in upwards of $100 million to fight Canelo again. Bud was paid far less than Canelo was for their super fight. But Bud at 38 years of age, I'm glad he's walking away. This is the guy that this makes total sense to me. This tracks with the man that is Bud Crawford. He has accomplished everything he set out to accomplish in the sport of boxing. He retires as the pound for pound best fighter in the game. He retires with an O on his record. Yes, Mayweather was 50-0, Bud 42-0. He's in the conversation for the greatest boxer of all time. He's the greatest athlete ever to come out of Omaha, Nebraska, and there's been some really good athletes to come out of Omaha, Nebraska. And he gets to do whatever he wants to do for the rest of his life. If he wants to go into other business ventures, if he wants to stay connected to the sport of boxing, he'll be able to do so. But this makes completely and total sense to walk away. He has his brain, he has his health, he has his family, and he has a ton of money. By all accounts, Bud has been very smart with his money. He doesn't need to fight anymore. He doesn't need to go back into the ring against Canelo, even though I think he would beat Canelo. If he fought Canelo again, I think he would beat him. But I do think there would be different clauses and there'd be different situations at work that I'm not sure Bud really trusts. That's why he wants a big payday. Some people are calling this a negotiation move. This is not actually real. This is like what Conor McGregor, when he would announce a retirement, that Bud actually isn't retiring. I actually think it's true. I think it is true. I think Bud is walking away. I think he is done. And I think part of it may have been what happened in Omaha after the championship parade that they threw him. He was pulled over by police in Omaha and he was harassed by police. I think he wants to disappear. I think he's tired of the spotlight. I think he knows that there's nothing left to him moving up in 2 weight classes to go fight Canelo, to prove that he could fight at any weight. And he did, and he won it handily. Again, that card being 7-5 was a joke. It was an absolute joke. So to me, this is perfect for Bud. Perfect time to walk away. Perfect time to say, you know what? If I had an opportunity to fight something that would interest me, he probably would have done it. But he already beat Canelo. So if he fights Canelo a second time and loses, he has to fight him again. Now you got the trilogy fight. He doesn't need the money. So there's no point, right? If you're going to fight Canelo a second time, if you lose, you're going to fight him a third time. Now you're elongating your career for 2, 3, 4 years. It's a long time. He's 38. Doesn't need it. Doesn't want it. He's done. Walk away 42-0 at the height of your career. Say thank you very much. Tip of the cap and move on. I like it. I like it a lot. I hope it is real. I think it is real. And I think Bud Crawford is doing the right thing by hanging it up. It just was kind of shocking. It came out of nowhere. It came with a social media post last night. It was just like, hey, I'm done. Like I've accomplished everything. I'm hanging my gloves up. Took a picture of his gloves, hanging them up. I'm done. Like that was, whoa, okay. No fanfare, no press conference, no, a lot of crap. Just thank you very much. I'm done. Hell of a career. Bud Crawford, one of the best to ever do it. Let's make some plays. Just the Picks being brought to you by the Betting Pros' Prop Bet Cheat Sheet. You guys can go download the Betting Pros app to find the Prop Bet Cheat Sheet, or you can go to bettingpros.com/props to see the Prop Bet Cheat Sheet. Tonight's 2 games in the NBA. I'll have a player prop that I'm going to grab a hold of at some point during the day today off the Prop Bet Cheat Sheet, so you can go check it out if you would like it today. We have one bowl game to talk about. We got the bowl game right yesterday with Jacksonville State plus 2.5. I'm going to go under ODU. Where's Mikey Awesome? ODU in South Florida happening today. Both quarterbacks for these teams have opted out of playing in this game. Both defenses have been good over the last month. ODU this year was 8-4 to the under, and without the starting quarterback for South Florida, an interim head coach for South Florida, I don't see a lot of offense here for either team. I think we have a pretty boring football game happening here between ODU and USF, and I'm going to go ahead and take the under. Yes, it is. It's the Mikey Awesome Bowl, and I know Mikey said he was listening, but we're going with a little ODU under here. I don't mind ODU to win the game too, by the way. I think ODU is more motivated. I think he's more motivated to go out there and win. I think he's more motivated to play in this bowl game versus South Florida, who obviously are going through some pretty big transitions right now, losing their quarterback, head coach, and whatnot. We saw it last night. I mean, that game, Jacksonville State should have won that game much easier than they did. They were just doing, like, why are you faking a punt inside your own 10-yard line? Like, what are you doing? Like, that was absolutely bonkers. Like, it made no sense what they were doing. They basically allowed Troy to stay in that game last night. They were down 13-7 at the break, and they win the game 17-13. So that game went under. This game, I think, goes under 52.5 for ODU and USF. There's one college basketball game, and this number has completely exploded. I hate putting this up because it's not available, but this is what I bet. So last night, Stony Brook against Albany. Sometimes when you're betting overnight like I do for the Daily Juice, I get lucky. And what I mean is, some games are head fake games. This was an ultimate head fake game. I don't know why, but the initial read, the initial thought on this game was that Stony Brook was going to play this too slowly to cover a 10.5 point opening number. And so what happened was this number opened up at 10.5. And it was immediately bet down to 8.5. Well, KenPom has this as a 10-point win for Stony Brook out of the America East. This is a battle in New York. This number now currently sits at 11.5 for Stony Brook. And the reason, and this is, I think people paid attention to this, it's Looney Tunes that people were taking the points here with Albany, given the numbers for Albany and given what Stony Brook has done recently. Albany has 3 wins on the year, and they are all against the most ridiculous teams you've ever heard of. Like, I was dying laughing last night. Have you guys ever heard of Paul Smith's College? Who the hell is Paul Smith's College? This is who Albany has defeated this year. They won 115-52. SUNY Delhi. Who? SUNY Oneida. Who? They won 90-62 in that game. They beat Delhi 115-52. They have 3 blowout wins against clown show teams. And then against everyone else, Albany got beat by Marquette 80-53. UMass beat them 83-62. They lost to Siena 73-63. They've lost every game. Every loss on their schedule has been by double digits except for one. They lost to Colgate 69-67. but this is a horrific basketball team. They are 283rd in offensive adjusted efficiency. They are 335th in defensive adjusted efficiency. They are 297th in offensive effective field goal percentage. They are 321st in defensive effective field goal percentage. They're one of the worst free throw shooting teams in the entire country. 61.6% is 356 in the country for free throw shooting. They do not guard the three. They are 238th in defensive three-point percentage, while Stony Brook is 90th in the country in three-point percentage at 38.8. I don't care that Stony Brook plays slowly. Albany's not going to score. Albany is horrible. I mean, okay, these are D3 schools. Thank you. I've never heard of these schools. They're D3 schools. So Albany is pounding Paul Smith College is a what? What is Paul Smith College? A USCAA? What the hell is that? What is a USCAA school? I've never heard of this. I've been working in sports for 25 years. What the hell is a USCAA? What is that? Yeah, give me Stony Brook, laying 8.5 here. I wouldn't lay 11.5. I wouldn't lay the current number, but if you can find a better number than 8.5, I would go ahead and lay that. If you guys are watching on the replay and you want to continue the walk down memory lane here for the 4-year anniversary, come over to our YouTube channel at Boston versus the Book on YouTube and watch Bonus Time, because there's something special I'm going to play coming Bonus Time. It didn't make sense to play it on Sports Grid, but we're going to play it during Bonus Time. So come on over during Bonus Time. The rest of you guys don't move. Isn't that what Gronk? No, that's USAA, Deuce Daily, not USCA. USAA, or as he says it, USAA. That is an insurance company for the military. The United States Collegiate Athletic Association. What the fuck is that? What is that? They're not even NIAA. Oh my God. They're below NIAIA and NINAIA school. Sorry, can't pronounce that. Wow. Yeah, I'd take team total forward. Yeah, Albany's horrible. They're horrible. I just think they win. I just think Stony Brook wins by 9-10 points. It's a double-digit win. It's probably right around that number. But I have no idea. Like, sometimes we get lucky. You know, sometimes we get lucky. Breaking news. John Henry in the Fenway Sports Group. Oh, hold on. I forgot the breaking news sounder. Hold on. Breaking news. How fucking perfect is this? This is fate. This is the universe. This is amazing. The Pittsburgh Penguins are being sold. The John Henry-led Fenway Sports Group is selling the Penguins. Dave would be so happy. Oh my. How happy is the my God. They sold. That's unbelievable. The Red Sox ownership no longer controls the Pittsburgh Penguins. That's huge. Wow, that is absolutely gigantic. They didn't care about the Penguins. I wonder, is it going to include the network that the Penguins and Pirates games aired on? Because that was part of the buy. Fenway Sports Group owned the Penguins, but also owned what's that called? Pittsburgh Sports. What was it called in Pittsburgh? Some of you guys are in Pittsburgh. What's your sports network called that the Pirates and the Penguins both air on? Sportsnet? Pittsburgh Sportsnet? Yeah, that's crazy. On the 4-year anniversary of the show. That's awesome. How cool is that? That's great. This is the oldest BvB hat that I own. This was the second ever BvB hat that I made. This thing's like falling apart. It's 4 years old. It's all stretched out. Dave called what? That they would sell? No. I mean, he was mad that they bought. It was because he was right. It was destiny. He was angry that the Fenway Sports Group folks bought it because Fenway Sports Group bought out the Penguins, but also bought out the entire operating, bought out the network, and they fired everybody at the Pittsburgh network, and they ran everything out of Nets. Thank you, Sportsnet Pittsburgh. Thank you. They blew out everybody at Pittsburgh at Sportsnet and had it all being run out of Watertown at Nesson. So a lot of the folks that Dave worked with at Sportsnet Pittsburgh blew it out. They got blown out. So then it turned around, and it was one of those situations where, because it was cheaper to run everything through Nesson, they doubled everyone's job at Nesson. So if you were a coordinating producer at Nesson, you became a coordinating producer for 2 networks, and they didn't give the guys and girls raises to do it. It was just like, here, more work, less money. So that pissed off a ton of people at Nesson. It obviously was a really bad situation for the folks working in Pittsburgh. It also hurt the product for Sportsnet. They had less shows, less pregame, less postgame. Things did not go well. They didn't cover the Pirates the way the Pirates should be covered. Didn't cover the Penguins the way the Penguins should have been covered. So this is a big deal from a business standpoint in Pittsburgh, from a media standpoint, having that being sold, that John Henry is selling Pittsburgh Penguins. Sources say the Fenway Sports Group has reached an agreement to sell the Penguins to the Hoffman family, a Chicago-based investment group led by David Hoffman. Anybody know who David Hoffman is? I mean, I know the Hoffmans, but not that Hoffman. I know my friend AC is a Hoffman, but I don't think it's related to that Hoffman group. But that is, I don't know, man. You might be out of the frying pan and into the fire if you're a Penguin fan. So you don't like Fenway Sports Group out of Boston owning you. Are you going to love the Hoffman family out of Chicago owning you? You want somebody with Pittsburgh ties. You want somebody with local ties, somebody who actually wants to keep the Penguins in Pittsburgh and grow in the wake. Whenever they see the retirement for Sid Crosby, what happens in the wake of that? I just know the actor. Yes, Dustin's tremendous. We love Dustin. Okay. Interesting. Okay, so I said I teased this, and I want to follow through on this. I put this together last night. It's just a 4-minute little excerpt of the first ever show with Dave and I. This is December 13th, 2021, which is the first ever episode of BvB. And it is, as I said earlier, it's heartbreaking and heartwarming at the same time. It's awesome to hear Dave. It's awesome to hear the show and what the show was. It's hard because it's not what the show is and not what the show will be ever again. And not to hear Dave's voice and not to get to hear Dave is tough, but this was something that I thought was appropriate on our 4-year anniversary to go ahead and play this 4-minute excerpt on our 4-year anniversary of BvB.
Dave Sharapan and Matt Perrault.
And here we go.
What's up, guys? How are you? Welcome into the inaugural broadcast, the inaugural show for the Bostonian versus the Book. My name is Matt Peralta, alongside Dave Sharapan. We are here broadcasting a show that we have been talking about for over a year. Dave, we're finally live, my friend. Let's go.
Unbelievable, right? So every day I'm going to hear this music and it's going to go, here we go. And I'm ready to go. Like, I am so fired up. I've been walking around the house all morning last night, just playing the intro, saying, me and P. Roll are actually doing the show. And you know the kids now, and they're like, yes, so what? I'm like, you don't understand. You didn't. You like. I walked into the studio at the Palms when you said you needed a guy, and we started talking. And we've been talking about doing this for a long time. And people were like, are you sure? Yeah. I'm sure. Yes. How do you know? I don't know, but I know that want to do it. And then we're here. I don't have any no one has any sympathy for the book. David Purdom, good friend of mine, gave me a line that I use all the time. There's more sympathy for the devil than the bookmaker. I mean, it's true. So there ain't nobody giving anybody no crying and Kleenex boxes for books today. But man, it's just it's an ugly day. It hurts to sit there and just go, well, we're losing this, we're losing this, we're losing this. We need the Bears for $1 million. We're losing that too.
It really is funny the way that sports gambling operates in terms of the ebbs and flows and how everything kind of balances it out. People don't really understand this oftentimes when they get a bad beat. They're like, man, that sucked. I'm so mad about it. But let's just look at what happened for me, for instance. The Cowboys and the Patriots go to overtime. I have the Patriots at +3, +3.5 in that game. The Cowboys kick a field goal. The Cowboys are going to win that game. What happens? CeeDee Lamb goes on a 7 route, gets hit by Dak Prescott, touchdown scores, Cowboys cover, right? I'm crying. I'm like, oh my gosh, what a bad beat. Yesterday, game goes to overtime. I'm sitting on the Bucks -3. 3-point kick goes through. What happens? You get a nice little crossing route. Brady hits the dude. I think it was I forget who he hit.
Perriman. His only catch of the game. Where was the Buffalo guys? There was nobody there.
Yeah, I mean, they blitzed and Brady got the crossing route and hit him, and it was down the sidelines, touchdown, game over. So, like, it is funny how it balances out. Now, you could say, Matt, you lost the juice on that. Yes, that's true. 1-1 is not great. The bookmaker makes money when we go 1-1, but still, it does even out because I really had no business cashing that after the Bucks collapsed. Of all the thousands of people in the stand, how did that cameraman find that one dude that looked identical to Aaron Rodgers?
You know, the invaluable skills of a good camera person, of a good producer. I mean, we used to do this stuff. Like I scour the crowd looking for an Aaron Rodgers lookalike. Oh, hold on. Take camera 6. Take camera 6. This guy got one. I'm telling you, I got one. Turn it on. You're like, oh my God. Get that one on right now. Go live with that. Tell Al and Chris we're coming, his exact twin. Amazing work by that guy.
What is the philosophy or the theory behind the Vegas book saying you cannot parlay props?
A lot of it's correlated. You saw a lot yesterday on social media. Some people had some big prop payout hits over the weekend. The prop handle is so minuscule overall in the scheme of things. And Vegas books do not want to give you like Jimmy Vaccaro used to say it all the time, you don't get a toothpick to get a forest. I mean, that's what people like to bet. They like to bet a toothpick to win a forest.
So hopefully you guys liked that. That was just a little taste of the first show. 4 minutes on our 4-year anniversary of BvB. And again, the reason why I have to play the audio of that is there is no video. It does not exist of the first ever show, which sucks, which is like, I hate it. I hate that we don't have the video of that show. All we have is the audio. Now, I have every show. So as an audio guy, I'm cool with it. I've got the audio for every single show we've ever did. There are hours upon hours upon hours. And if you are ever bored and if you are ever missing what the show was or missing Dave, I recommend it. Go to Apple or Spotify and every episode is there. Every single 905 episodes of BvB are there. So you can go and, tell you a quick story. My daughter and I watched Almost Famous for the first time last night. So I initially watched it a couple nights ago. I was like, Madeline, you're 11. You can handle Almost Famous. The language is a little bit strong. There's a couple of sexual scenes in it, but for the most part, it's an amazing movie. My daughter is very much into music right now, huge into bands, and she's very much like a spitting image of me, except she hit this. I hit it at 13. She's hit it at 11. So a couple of years before I got into it, my daughter got into it. And she's headphones on, music, 90s music, like, modern music, but she's becoming very much of a music connoisseur. And anybody who loves music, anybody that loves, as a teenager, loving music, you have to watch Almost Famous. Like, it's just one of those movies. You just have to do this. And so there's a scene in that movie where Penny Lane is talking to William, and she says, if you ever get lonely, you just go to the record store and see your friends. And I have taken that, thought in my head and gone, we talk about missing Dave, and I talk about missing Dave a lot. We talk about the sadness, and there is we're all going to die, right? We're all going to die. It's an inevitability. It's a 100% fact that every single one of us who is sitting here listening and talking in the chat or watching on TV, watching wherever you are watching from, that we are all going to die. So when we die and how we die, we control that, right? We have a say in that. At least we hope that we have a say in that. And so we want to remember for what we are and what we've done and who we were. And remember that we were here and we left a legacy. And Dave has a legacy that has been left in what he's left behind is so much content that anytime you're missing our friend, just go to your phone or go to the internet and you can go and listen to your friends and listen to your friend talk. Because I just pulled a clip, right? That was a 4-minute clip where we talked about the show starting, talked about our kids. We talked about a lookalike for Aaron Rodgers in the crowd and a bookmaker and Dave saying a line that was incredibly memorable. Like that was 4 minutes of the first episode of BvB that you could have heard in any other episode that we did over the 800 episodes that we did together. You could have heard that exact conversation anytime. And so it is not that crazy to say, if you want to hear the show or hear Dave, to go back and listen or watch to, the YouTube channel begins in January of 23. The show looks much different today. I think it looks more professional, but it looks much different. But that's January 23. So this January in 26, that will be 3 years worth of video. So there's quite a bit of video that's on the YouTube channel. But we don't have the entire first year of the show from December 21 to January of 23. Those 13 months, we don't have any evidence. It was deleted when props went under. It was deleted. And so we lost it. And so I wish we had that. I really do. Because I would be playing video. But if you want to see what I did for Dave when he passed in September, that show is still up. And so I didn't want to do that today. I wanted to stay positive. I wanted to stay forward looking, and I wanted to do a sports show, but I did want to play you that first episode and how long it took us to get to that first episode of the show, because it took meeting after meeting after meeting. And you heard me in the beginning saying, I can't believe we're finally here. And Dave said, wow, we're actually doing the show, because we had so many conversations. Chris Grove, who is not really involved in sports betting much anymore, but he's a very large investor, and he's the one that started in greenlit BvB. We've talked about Grove a lot, but we had difficulties with props. We had difficulties working with props, and Dave had difficulties working with props. And I don't know, I'm being honest here, I don't know how long we would have kept doing the show with props, because Dave was really frustrated with a lot of the things that were going on with the company and the way things were being done with the company. We were told, Dave made the joke a lot about lawyers telling us what we could and could not do. That was true. Like, we had a lot of ideas. We had a lot of things that we wanted to do, including the hats. And probably the biggest thing that the lawyers told us that we couldn't do were the hats. Like, they were like, no way, you can't do that. You're not putting the logo on anything that we don't approve of. And we're not approving you hats, t-shirts. If we want to do that one day, we'll do that. But we're not doing that. And we couldn't figure out why. Like, we couldn't figure out, like, why in the world would you not want us to do that? And, we went to a lunch about 6 months in. It was me, Dave, and 2 lawyers from the company. It was here in Vegas. And we walked to the meeting and we're like, what is this going to be like? And we came out of the meeting, we walked away from the meeting, and we were like, oh no, we're not going to be able to do anything that we want to do. And and you guys probably heard some of the friction between Dave and I. If you're a real OG, you can remember some of the friction points that Dave and I had back at the end of our run with props before they went goodbye and gave us the IP for everything. Because I was not a board member, but I was management. Okay. So I had a title with the company. I was the director of new media. So I did BvB, but as I've told the story before, when I sat down with Chris Grove, he said, I'm going to fund BvB, but you're going to do this for me instead. Or in addition, I should say, in addition to me funding BvB, you're going to run a full-scale podcasting division. He already had acquired 4 different podcasts. We were adding another one. I started 3 myself, BvB, Props Arizona, and Props. What was the other one that Everson and I did at the beginning? There was another one. I can't remember the name of it, but there were 3 that we started. And I was going to go do in every state that had legalized sports gambling. I was planning on starting a different podcast. I was going to build a whole empire. Like I was going to build a whole empire. And it just turned into like this big fight between the two of us because I was privy to stuff that Dave didn't know a lot of times. And so like it spilled onto the air sometimes it didn't. Sometimes the fights were about the actual topic. And sometimes the fights were because Dave and I had gotten into a fight before the show because he was angry about something that Props was doing. And he called me a suit sometimes. Like we would go back and forth. He'd be like, you're always defending the company and you're always defending, because I had a lot of respect for Chris Grove and the company that I was working for. So I was a full-time employee of Props. Dave never was. Dave was a contract employee. So like there were all sorts of things that went on and we fought a lot. So I don't know if we didn't get the keys handed to us in February of 23, or was it January? Yeah, it was January. January of 23 when, early, right. It was at G2E, right? Or maybe it was October. Yeah, it was October of 22. They told us, we're letting you guys go. We're going to fund the show till the end of January, and then you guys are gone. So they gave us 4 months. They gave us our walking papers for 4 months. And so we had to figure out what to do. We had to figure out, at the time, Farah was an employee as well. So Matt Farah was our employee, and we had to figure out how to pay him. And so, like, this is crazy to think about. I haven't thought about this in a long time. Did you guys, this is fact, and we're in bonus time, so I can tell you guys this. Farah, who's no longer with us, unfortunately, but Farah was the only one for the first 4 months of us working, January, February, April, March. We paid Matt Farah every dime that we made. Dave and I didn't make a single dollar on the show for the first 4 months. And we had sponsors. You remember they're now no longer in America, but there was a sports book here in town that was sponsoring the show. And I think we were making, I don't know, a couple $1,000s a month or something. And so we didn't make a dime. We gave it all to Matt Farah to pay for his contract so we could have a producer. And after 4 months, we realized that like we couldn't pay any more to a third party. And so we had to let Matt go, and we had to decide we had to, move on from Matt Farah. And then it was just Dave and I. And then, it's the same thing that happened now. Like, with Dave passing away, it's just me. Like there is no producer. I do everything. And because the amount of money coming in is not enough to allow me to pay for a producer. And people who look at, I said this a couple of days ago, but like if you look at the spreadsheet and you look at what I'm doing, and if you were someone that came in and said, okay, how much money are you making on the show? And you're working, this is a full-time job. This show is full-time. It's taking up and if it wasn't for Betting Pros, and I will always be extremely thankful for the job I have with Betting Pros, because if my job was a full-time position that took a 9 to 5 slot, and I would have to work for Betting Pros, because that's how I get my health insurance for my daughter, for myself, comes from my full-time job with Betting Pros. Without Betting Pros, there is no BvB. There is no way I could do this show and put the hours that I put into this show, because I don't make much money on this show. Even with Dave, me taking 100% of the money instead of 50% of the money, it's still not a lot of money. Dave's wife, at the time when I was married, like people that even now, people that are around me now, like you look at the numbers and you're like, what are you doing? You're spending like hours and hours, and there's costs that are associated with the show. StreamYard and Transistor and all the things that we do, all the different AI programs that we run now, like all the things that we do, it all costs money. So the net as to what we make, what we take out, is not a full-time salary. Could not suffice, could not live on what I make off this show. Because I teach at UNLV, because I have the Daily Juice, that lets me do BvB. Dave had Sports Grid. Because Dave had Sports Grid, Dave was able to do BvB. It was this show has been the biggest investment dream for the two of us. And I'm doing it still because it was our dream to keep going. And his line was always, just keep doing the show. And so that's why I'm still doing the show, just to keep doing the show. We've been very fortunate that BetCris Arizona stepped up to fund football season, right? And I'm very thankful that that relationship should continue into 2026. I've already had talks with them about the show, about funding the show for 26. And so I had told people when they asked me after Dave passed in September, they asked me, how long are you going to do the show by yourself? What's your plan? And I've said to them, and I've said to you guys publicly, I said, the show is funded until the Super Bowl. That's what the money is paid up until. So I'm going to do the show for as long as to fulfill the contract that the show has been doing. And for the last 2 months, there have been, people have asked me left and right about, okay, are you going to keep doing it? What happens after the Super Bowl? You know how many shows shut down and shutter after the Super Bowl? Like, Todd Furman shuttered even before the game, because the money just is no longer there. Like the advertising dollars that were there for sports gambling shows, it was so abundant for a decade. It's gone. Like there's just nothing there anymore. So BetCris Arizona and Adam Bjorn and I have had long conversations about what 26 is going to look like. And he has, we have nothing in writing. There's not a contract signed, but he has indicated that, look, he wants BvB to keep going and he wants to fund the show in 26. And as long as that happens, I see no reason why the show is not going to keep going for the entire year of 2026. As long as we have a large, one or two large sponsors that step in, that keeps the show alive and we can keep rolling with BvB. The store is the new avenue. That's the new angle for the show to have a new revenue stream, to sell hats and t-shirts. And if you have purchased a hat and t-shirts, you should be getting it soon. Corbin ran into a little bit of a snag, and he's been trying to communicate with people as to what has happened. I think you guys probably have gotten emails from him, but those hats and t-shirts and hoodies should be getting produced today and tomorrow and should be getting out into the mail on Friday and Saturday. So you should get it. If you're on the East Coast, you might get it right around Christmas. If you're on the West Coast, you should get it pretty quickly and like first of next week type of thing. So like we open that up to try to create a revenue stream and try to create ways of making some money to make some money for the show. So it's not just all advertising. I can tell you that Huel is back in the first quarter of 2026. So Huel has been a sponsor. They're coming back. There's a couple of other sponsors that look like they're going to be a part of the show. Sports Grid has agreed at the moment to allow me to broadcast from their stuff for the Super Bowl. So I can go to the Super Bowl and do Radio Row and be there and do Wednesday, Thursday, Friday from Radio Row, which is huge and a big moment for the show because it's the first time I'll be broadcasting by myself live. And that's going to be different to come in and do that. So there's just a lot of things that are hopefully going to happen in the future as to how this goes. I think there's, thank you for that, Addison. Very nice. He had Huel for dinner. That's great. So I don't know. So I appreciate all of you who are saying this, that you're not going anywhere. I need you all more than ever to be a part of this. And it's I don't know what I would do without this show. And I've told, I've had long conversations. Amanda and I have had long conversations probably more than she wants to, about, Dave was always the one that I would talk about the future with the show about. And I would have those late night conversations. And, Dave and I are on the same time zone. Amanda's 3 hours ahead of me. So it's, 12:30 at night, and she's bleary eyed trying to listen to me. And I'm rambling and ranting about what I want to do and what the dreams are and what I'm trying to accomplish and what I'm hoping to do. And, just different strategies and different thoughts about what we can do next. And how do I keep the show fresh? And how do I, keep Dave's spirit alive? And, how do I do all the things that I would normally be bouncing those ideas off of Dave? And I would tell her, like, you have to play the role of Dave now, because this is how I operate. This is how I talk. This is how I think. Some people think in the shower, I think out loud. Like I kind of have just like this, like fire, this hose of thoughts that just like spray out. And then we can kind of figure out what was a good idea and what was a bad idea. So many times Dave would say, look at the tattoo, right? He'd say, look at the tattoo. That's Amanda's job now. Whenever I'm thinking about lighting somebody on fire, she's like, look at the tattoo. So that's what this was. Today was me looking at the tattoo and being more keeping it positive and not doing what I was going to do, which was tell stories that probably will need to be kept in the quiet for now. They won't always be kept in the quiet. They won't always be in the dark. They will see the light of day at some point. Just not today. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the last 4 years. Here's to 4 more. So exciting to see what we do. So excited to go and see what happens next in the future. But thank you to all of you for being here, being a part of the show, subscribing to this YouTube channel. Let's get to 3,000. We're so very close. Tomorrow, a Bet Chris Arizona Thursday with Adam Bjorn. Where in the world? No clue. He didn't know on last Thursday as to where he will be. So I don't know where he is, but we got a big game. Rams, Seahawks tomorrow night. We'll get into all of it tomorrow on a Bet Chris Arizona Thursday for the Bostonian versus the Book.